That was the first thing Commander Zyrex had always told his cadets: the universe does not send invitations. He had delivered that line 17 times across 14 planetary academies, and every time, the alien cadets had nodded with wide, multifaceted eyes and trembling antennae, absorbing the wisdom like gospel. He had never expected a human to make him feel like the student. The Interstellar Defense Academy on Kelthora Station was considered one of the most rigorous military institutions in the known galaxy. 7 years of documented excellence. 43 species represented among its student body. A dropout rate of 62%, a figure the administration displayed proudly on the entrance arch, because those who finished were worth something. Mara Ellison had arrived on the first transport from Sol System with a duffel bag, a protein bar she ate in 3 bites, and absolutely zero reverence for anyone's dropout statistics. She was 22 years old. Brown hair pulled back in a knot that had given up trying to be neat. A scar running from her left ear to her jaw, old, faded, and completely unashamed of its existence. She had grown up on Proxima Deathworld Station, a research colony orbiting a flare star where the local fauna included 3 species that could dissolve human tissue on contact, electromagnetic storms that could fry unshielded electronics in seconds, and a fungal bloom every spring that the colonists had simply started calling the season of not breathing outside. She had spent her childhood there. She had thrived there. Commander Zyrex had reviewed her file once. He had not reviewed it again. Some things, he decided, were better absorbed in person. The acid rain drill was scheduled for week 9 of the survival module. On Kelthora Station, the training grounds could simulate planetary conditions drawn from thousands of catalogued worlds. The Class 10 acid rain simulation was reserved for the final tier of the program, a torrential downpour of sulfuric compound precipitation that scored a 10 on the Mordecai scale of chemical hostility. It was, the training manual noted, survivable with proper equipment and immediate shelter protocols. Every cadet was issued a full Kelthoran-grade environmental suit. Reinforced polymer shell. Neutralizing underlayer. 15 minutes of rated resistance before degradation began. The drill was simple: navigate 600 meters of open terrain through the simulated storm, locate the emergency shelter beacon, and seal the door. 12 cadets entered the field. The storm hit 4 minutes in early, because Zyrex always started early. 3 Vorith cadets went down in the first minute. Their suits were functioning perfectly, their instincts were not. They froze when the rain hit, the sound like static and the smell like burning, and freezing in a Class 10 event was how you died. They were pulled from the field by extraction drones and marked as training failures. 2 Dendarii dropped to their knees and activated their emergency recall beacons. Protocol. Acceptable choice. Still a failure. The remaining 7 pushed on. Zyrex watched from the observation platform overhead, his membrane-covered eyes tracking their progress through the amber haze of the simulation. 6 minutes in, the suits began to fail. This was also by design. The manual said 15 minutes. Zyrex had overridden the material settings. The suits were rated for 8 today, because the universe did not care what the manual said, and Zyrex had long ago decided that teaching cadets to rely on equipment ratings was teaching them to die comfortably. The degradation started at the shoulders, the polymer softening, the underlayer beginning to fizz where the acid compounds made contact. One Threskian cadet, a decorated student named Veltaa, let out a sound that the translation matrix rendered as "this is not survivable" and hit the recall beacon. Another followed. Then another. At the 8-minute mark, 4 cadets remained. At the 9-minute mark, 3. At 10 minutes, Zyrex was watching 2 cadets still moving through the field, a Garathi named Skis, whose natural shell was providing secondary protection, and Mara Ellison, whose suit was now approximately 40% dissolved across the upper torso and one arm. Skis was fast. Skis was disciplined. Skis would graduate. But Mara Ellison was smiling. Zyrex leaned forward. She was moving differently from the others, not straight-line navigation toward the beacon, but diagonal, using the terrain, dropping low into a shallow gully where the rain fell at a reduced angle, letting the earth itself become part of her armor. She had pulled a strip of emergency insulation from her kit and wrapped it around the compromised shoulder section, not to save the suit, it was beyond saving, but to give herself 3 more minutes before the acid reached her skin. Improvised. Effective. Instinctual. The insulation strip was not in the manual. The gully route added 40 meters to her path. She reached the beacon shelter 31 seconds behind Skiss, her suit a ruin of scorched polymer and fizzing underlayer, half her left sleeve completely dissolved, the skin of her forearm red from proximity to the compounds, not burned through, just angry. She sealed the door. Then she looked up at the observation camera and gave it a thumbs up. The debrief took place in Commander Zyrex's office, a room designed, as all his spaces were, to be slightly too cold for comfort, on the theory that comfort made cadets lazy. Mara Ellison sat across from him in the chair reserved for cadets being evaluated and looked like she was considering taking a nap. "Your suit failed at minute 8, Zyrex said. "Yes, sir. The standard protocol when a suit fails during a Class 10 event is immediate beacon activation." "I know, sir." "You did not activate your beacon." "No, sir." Zyrex studied her. The red on her forearm was already fading. She had applied the neutralizing compound from the shelter's first aid kit with the efficiency of someone who had done it before. "Explain your reasoning, Cadet Ellison." Mara tilted her head slightly. "The suit failed, but I hadn't. The terrain offered partial cover. I had a material in my kit that could extend my viable window. The shelter was achievable." A pause. Beacon activation felt premature. The Mordecai scale rates Class 10 as fatal to unprotected organic tissue within approximately 6 minutes of direct exposure. "Approximately," she said. "I had 4 minutes of suit left and roughly 3 minutes of viable workaround. The shelter was 4 minutes away on a standard route, 3 on the gully path. It was close, but it was math. You were doing mathematics while your suit was dissolving." "I grew up on Proxima Deathworld, sir." She said it the way someone might say I grew up near the coast. "We did math while a lot of things were happening." Zyrex was quiet for a moment. Outside his office window, the training grounds were being reset, extraction teams in their own acid-rated suits clearing the field, drones resetting the beacon. "Tell me about the insulation strip." "Standard emergency roll. Every kit has one." She shrugged with the shoulder that had been closest to dissolution. "It's rated for thermal protection, but the polymer compounds in it are chemically similar to the suit underlayer. Slower to degrade. I figured it would buy time." "You figured." "I was right." He could not argue with that. "The gully route," he said. "Rain angle. Less direct exposure." The terrain was doing part of the work. She looked at him steadily. "Sir, the whole drill felt like it was designed to test whether we'd quit when conditions went past the manual. Am I wrong?" Zyrex looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said. "You are not wrong." She nodded, as if this confirmed something she had already decided. "Can I ask, how many cadets have completed a Class 10 drill after suit failure in the program's history?" The commander checked the file. He already knew the answer, but he checked it anyway. 4. In 7 years. "Cool," said Mara Ellison. "Can we run it again?" "I think I can shave another 40 seconds off the gully route if I..." "No," said Zyrex. Firmly. "You may not run it again." She looked genuinely disappointed. He stood, which in Keltheran body language was the formal end of an evaluation session. "Cadet Ellison. Your instincts are anomalous. Your improvisation is," he searched for the word, "concerning in a manner that implies competence. Your comfort with hostile conditions borders on the pathological." "Thank you, sir." It was not entirely a compliment. I know, she said. But I'm taking it as one. He watched her stand, straighten what remained of her degraded suit with the dignity of someone wearing formal dress, and move toward the door. Ellison. She stopped. Week 12, he said. We simulate a Class 12 event. Volcanic particulate plus radiolytic precipitation. He paused. The manual calls it unsurvivable. Mara Ellison turned around. And she smiled, slow and bright and completely unafraid. I'll be there, she said. Commander Zyrex watched her go, and made a note in her file that he had never written for any other cadet in 17 years of instruction. Do not underestimate. Do not coddle. Do not assume limits. Then, after a moment, he added one more line. Learn from her.